Okay, so yeah, so live streaming going on YouTube. Done. Okay. All right. So today it's a Monday, and this is where we are in our schedule, which we are going to be talking about topic selection and development. So today we are going to talk about, as you can see, we'll be talking about your profile speech. Okay. So here we go. I will now put it out for all of you. So today it's important class. I would like to share this with you. Give me a second. I already have the slide here, and here we go. Profile speech, instructor PowerPoint, profile speech. Okay. Did we have a preliminary discussion? Just remind me about this profile speech. No, not yet, right? Okay, good. All right. So I'll start on a clean slate. Okay. So yes, we are talking about our profile speech, and here we go. So this profile speech is the first piece that we are preparing for. And what does this picture kind of, any idea, what do you think the speech is going to be about? You can see the, a picture of a person here. Any idea? About yourself. Who's met? Okay, let me just see. Okay, good. All right. I'm trying to learn names and faces. And you are Abby, yes. Abby, right? That's correct. So it is about yourself. It is a profile speech, and we've most probably heard, in the popular media, profiles, as in your profile picture, as in your profile summary. So it's something about yourself. All right. So this speech is going to be about yourself. All right. So you may remember that during the first class, we had a icebreaker session where you were asked to talk about, you were paired up with a partner and one of your classmates, and then you had to interview your partner about a few things, who you are, where you're from, and one interesting thing about yourself, right? And why, how do you rate yourself as a public speaker? And that was the fourth question. So that was more of a biographical information that I got about you. Okay. So this is going to be it's going to be quite different, not little different. It's going to be really different. All right. But this is also going to be about you. So when I say it's going to be about you, what is it that you will be talking about? All right. In this speech. So here we will be talking about ourselves, but then I have 3 themes that you can pick on. All right. So and when I talk about themes, think about it as a speech prompt. We call it a speech prompt. All right. So I have that, those 3 things that I'm going to discuss with you. So this speech is going to be about 5 minutes long, and all your speeches are going to be about 5 minutes long. So this is not going to be any different. It's going to be a 5-minute long speech, and this is about yourself. All right. And the 3 speech prompts that you have are here. So I'm going to talk about, but let me just talk about the 3 speech prompts that you will be getting. I'll also talk about this a little later. So let's go to the first slide. So think about this as a speech prompt, and the first prompt is disguise. Now, as I mentioned, we are going to be talking about 3 prompts or 3 themes, and you have to pick just one. All right. So the first one is disguise, and when I say disguise, you got to think about yourself in a situation where in life, have you ever disguised yourself? All right. So the disguise necessarily doesn't mean that it is a physical disguise. It could be a physical disguise, but it could be a mental disguise as well. So in life, have you ever been in a situation where you have disguised yourself in terms of a physical disguise, going to a Halloween party where you always wanted to dress up as someone? I had a student who talked about, he was in North Central, and I think, this is first year in college, and And they had these, games that they had to play with each other because, that's like a part of the ice breaking thing with their roommates. And he actually had to disguise himself for like 3 or 4 days consistently during, staying in the dorm. And the challenge was, no one would be able to find out who he is. So he did that and he talked about that. So that was actually a physical disguise that he talked about. And so that's one. And then you could have a mental disguise. I think most of the times we do that. Let's say that you try to pretend as someone who you were not. Let's say you are, your mom really wanted you to join that ballet class or that martial arts class, okay? And you just did something to make her happy, all right? And you really didn't want to do this, okay? So you disguised, a part of your personality, tried to learn something new just because you wanted to make that other person happy, right? So that could be a theme. So if you think about these situations, do you think you have a story for us that you would like to share in your speech that talks about a time where you had to either do a physical disguise or a mental disguise? Okay, all right, that's the first one. Okay, now the second one is silence. Okay, so were you in a situation in life where you were silenced? Okay, so that silence could be, again, you got to think about it, the tone of the speech, which is like, if the tone is serious or the tone is funny, humorous, entertaining. It could be funny and humorous. It doesn't have to be one tone, single tone. You can think about, wanted to share a funny story with a serious message. You can choose what your tone would be. But so when you think about a story like this, you can see the examples here. These are some. I had another student at Benedictine University, and he he's a second generation immigrant. So his parents are first generation, and there's a Middle Eastern, almost like a Middle Eastern Thanksgiving Day that they celebrate, and he says that every year he has to go to this aunt's place where she does a meat preparation or something, and he doesn't like it at all. And he just says that I just remain silent and I just politely say, oh, it's very nice. And the aunt just doesn't understand that, and she keeps forcing him to have seconds and thirds. So he talked about that, and how every time actually it's a funny speech, every year he thinks about a strategy of combating that, but every time he fails, his aunt is that powerful. So that was another thing. So anytime where you were silenced because you didn't want to offend the other person. Or maybe you were in a family gathering and there was a lot of hot political discussion going on, and you wanted to take a side, and yet you felt that, maybe people will be offended, and maybe it's not your place, maybe it's not your, right time to talk about something like that, and you felt silenced. Okay. So if you would like to talk about a situation in life where you felt that you were silenced, you could. All right. So that's, and again, you could make it funny, you could make it, meaningful and serious. It could be a combination of, funny, entertaining, meaningful, serious, all of that. That's going to be good. So that's the second theme. All right. So I just talked to you about the first theme, which is disguise, the second theme, which is silence. And I will be talking to you about the third theme, which is resilience. Okay. So this is the third theme, and you can think about, let's say the picture shows you here, right? So if you were in a situation in life where you really had to push yourself, okay, to achieve something in life, it could be that math class that you wanted to ace, right? Or it could be a sports team that you wanted to get into, and you really, with the trials and playoffs and all of that, you really pushed yourself to do that. So it doesn't mean that every time with that hard work, you have to tell me a story which has a happy ending. Not necessary. It's just the process. You can tell me that I crashed and fell on my face and I burned out, and that's fine. But it's the story. Okay, so anytime you felt that you really pushed yourself to get something. All right. So that's the third thing, which is resilience. So these are the three speech prompts, and you have to choose any one speech prompt or theme to build your story. Remember, the first time that you do the speech, you have to think about yourself as a storyteller. Okay. Every time, actually, in all speeches, you're always a storyteller when you're talking to an audience about any topic that you would like to. You have an audience, you're the speaker, and you would like to either persuade or entertain or motivate, whatever your purpose is. You're always going to be a storyteller, and this is a great first speech for us to just get into the mode of nice storytelling. All right. So you have to think about yourself as a storyteller. Think about this as a story slam. All right. So here, now I'm going to the second slide. So think about this as a story slam. I have written 500 words here. And that's more because typically with research has shown that if you're not a very slow speaker and if you're not a very fast speaker, typically most people speak at a speed of like 100 words per minute. Okay, so if it's 5 minutes, it's probably about 500 words, but that's like really at the low end. Okay, so you need a minimum of 500 words, and I would, and this is what I would say. I'm going to make you hear some speeches, which are like for a 5-minute speech, the speaker had almost 1,000 to 1,100 words, and that's the amount of words that you need. The reason is that I've seen some student speakers, just actually doing that 500, going through the 500 word outline and then coming in, and it's normal and forgetting, right? So it's okay for you to kind of over prepare and use those 5 minutes well. Now, if you ask me as an instructor, it doesn't matter to me whether you have a 500 word outline or a 1,000 word outline. Okay, I am most interested in your sense of time. All right, the fact that you will have 5 minutes, and I will be there, to kind of guide you. I have kind of note cards and flashcards. I sit at the back, and when you do your speech, like when 3 minutes are done, I'll show you a card which says 2 minutes remaining, 1 minute remaining, 30 seconds, and then time is up. And if you tell me that that makes me nervous, I don't want to see that, that's fine. Then you will have to practice that, keeping that 5 minutes. 5 minutes is something that I if it's a 5-minute speech, we have to stick to that 5-minute speech. Now, having said that, we are human beings, we are not machines. So if it goes like 4 minutes, 30 seconds, that's fine. There's a 30-second leeway that we have, and then 5 minutes, 30 seconds, that's also fine. So and no points are deducted. Okay, so you got to think about that in this way. So it doesn't matter how many words you have, you got to think about the time that you have. Okay, so the audience should not feel at the end of the day when they're hearing your speech that you're rushing and you're too fast and we couldn't understand you. And the audience should not feel bored if you're like too slow. Okay, so you got to maintain a pace which is good for the audience. All right, so that's why we have this, and these are more of I'll talk to you about it. These are more of like tactical things that you need to do, delivery skills. I'll talk about that. 5 to 6 note cards. Again, as I think Sydney asked me, the first class is what kind of delivery are you expecting? So it's extemporaneously. So which means that you have your note index cards or flashcards or note cards, whatever you call it. And you have like 5 or 6 of them, and then you have just pointers. Okay, just 1-word pointers on them. Like maybe one card will have maybe 5 words for you to remember. So you have that. It has to be, you don't need to memorize your speech. You need to do your speech very well, kind of know what your talking points are as many times, be a good storyteller. And storytelling is when you're doing a storytelling, you don't want to memorize it. It doesn't sound natural. We don't memorize and talk and tell stories, because that natural pause when you're thinking, you're trying to think about a transition, that just makes it real and natural. Okay, so that's called an extemporaneous delivery. Okay, so that's what we call that an extemporaneous, which is not a memorized delivery. There is a place. Now I've told you all this as well, that it doesn't mean that people don't memorize speeches. There is a place where people do. For example, the State of the Union address. You cannot make a mistake. Every word counts there. And that's when you have, the president reads out the State of the Union address. There's a teleprompter right in front of him, and he kind of reads it out. And there you have no scope of making mistakes there. So there is a place here, but not here. Okay. here you have to be a storyteller, be as natural as possible. When I come to class, I always think about, what story would I be telling you? Okay, so and I don't want to, like this one thing that I have today in mind, the central metaphor, that's something that I'm going to tell my students. I'm going to build it around that. I kind of know what I'm trying to say, and because I've been, teaching for a while, so I don't have to rehearse it. But if it's new material, I kind of have to rehearse it, but I don't memorize. So I know my talking points, so that I see your reaction and I see how you guys are responding to my teaching. And then I have to change something, I do change it, because I'm trying to adapt to my current audience who's listening to me. So that just makes it easier for me. Okay, so so this is what I just mentioned here. Student, you guys there? All good? My online section?
Yes.
Participants? Okay, you can hear. All right.
Yep.
So I will also post for all of you. I'll post this on Blackboard, these slides, because I know that you can just see me right now and you can't see the slides. I will post it on Blackboard so you can just refer to it later. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. All right. So, all right. Okay, so I did talk about all of this. So I'll take a little bit of a break and ask you, do you have any questions, just random questions that comes to your mind right now about the speech? Okay, all right, no random questions. Okay, so this is what I want to show you. This is the moth, and this whole profile speech and storytelling has been inspired. First of all, one of our department chair, she's excellent, and I really, I'm quite inspired by her. She kind of introduced me to the moth speeches, and and I'm going to show it to you. So I'll show it to you here how what it looks like, and we call it the moth speeches. Almost like you are a storyteller and you develop from the caterpillar to the moth. So this whole transformation happens through storytelling. That's what they had in mind before this whole site, a speaking portal, was set up. Now, you guys must have heard about, I don't know, must have, I'm thinking that yes, you have. And pardon me if I'm thinking that you should have, but it's quite possible that you haven't. But TED Talk. Have you all heard about TED Talk? Okay, all right. So that's online platform. I won't call it online. People, it's a platform where their speakers are invited, and you have speeches. So that doesn't have a whole lot of long history. Probably when I started teaching, there was nothing called TED Talk. So I think this TED Talk may have happened on the late. Maybe the first one was in somewhere in 2007 or 8, so it doesn't have a huge long history, because when I graduated, it wasn't there. But then, so now you know how TED Talk is. Those of you listen to TED speeches, it's really grown, right? And but then you'll see that if you looked at their speeches, if you see their tagline, TED Talk, it says like ideas worth spreading, right? So most of the speakers were invited as a TED Talk speaker. They are either, subject matter experts. So they have, they're talking about sleep deprivation or, drinking and driving. So most of these people are either psychologists or, social workers, people who've done social work, people who are doctors, who are scientists. These are people who are subject matter experts, and they are invited, and because they have an idea which is worth spreading. All right, so that's why they have this whole platform, and the speech thing really grew after the public speaking really kind of became very different now because of how TED Talk has influenced speeches. So that's one of the things. Now I'm going to. If you're familiar with it, you probably know that there's TED Talk, and most, as I mentioned to you, the speakers are mostly subject matter experts, or they may have done a lot of field work to have a lot of experience to talk about something, right? So you can have social workers, people who have really done a lot of work in a particular area and have found something really cool, really innovative, which is an idea worth spreading, and that's why they've been invited. Here, the one that I will show you right now, it's called Moth Podcast. Okay, the Moth channel. Actually, That's what it's called, the Moth channel, right? Yeah, let me see. Ah, that helps. Okay, so videos, themoth.org. Okay, this is the Moth, so 25 years of humanity, one story at a time. So I guess they have been around for a while now, but now they have kind of digitalized it, and they have YouTube, and they've, if you see, their whole thing is now they have a YouTube channel. So if you go to videos and the Moth channel, take you straight away to the YouTube. They did with YouTube and their Moth speakers. So now the interesting thing about this, I don't know how many of you kind of were aware of this. I'm not expecting a whole lot, because I wasn't, so I'm not expecting. So this is another one, right? Just like TED Talk, this is another platform where people are, they come as speakers and they present speeches. The difference between this one and this one and TED Talk is they are not subject matter experts. They don't have PhDs, or some of them may, but that's not the reason that they're here. They're great storytellers. They're very good at telling stories. Okay, so that's why this is a storytelling, kind of a storytelling contest, storytelling speech contest. Okay. Now, a fun fact is that I was teaching last semester, so it's a little bit of a warm, fuzzy story. And I had a student in my class last semester in the Naperville campus. The student was a good speaker, of course, very enthused, he was a good speaker. And I got him introduced to, just like a regular class we had. And I said, Moth, this is the Moth podcast, the storytellers. And he always wanted to do something. I think what the degree that he was pursuing was digital broadcasting. All right. And he just looked at this and he loved it. And he actually went and competed in the Chicago chapter after looking at this, and he won the third prize. So that was like, wow. So they have chapters all over the country. And then even within Chicago, the one that he was went to was in Oak Brook. So they have like chapters, all over the world. And then even within Chicago, that's what he said, that there are some sections, with the suburbs, you can go there. Then if you would like to go to city, there's some chapters there. If you really do well, then you are selected in then it's just like any competition. Then you go to the state level, then to the national level, then to the international level again. So this one, interestingly, it's held all over the world, and they are great. They don't have, it's not ideas word spreading, but these are all stories. Okay, these are all great storytellers. So if they talk about so many diversity. They talk about just facing life and challenges, failures, success. You talk about it, all those themes that are very human in nature. Okay, so and the nice part about this is very diverse from all over the world. There's speakers from different parts of the world, all right, with different background, very culturally rich. So that's what I really love about this series. So here you can just see, these are people who are just good stories. They just like, they can really connect with people. We're going to talk about that. How do you tell a good story? And they're good storytellers. All right. So this is one that this channel, and if you want to make a note of this, you guys can look at this channel and just when you're maybe, I don't know what, I try to not look at my phone before sleeping, and like 30 minutes I don't. But then one of my pastime is actually going to these, this site and actually hearing the speeches. This really nice, entertaining, funny, and I actually go to different speeches here. So if you would like to know a little bit more about how do you want to tell a story, you can just actually go here and see what they're doing. I'm not asking you to, you don't have to, you can have your own sense of creativity and your own ownership of your material. But I think this is a good one just to see, how people are telling stories. So so this is the channel that I wanted to talk to you all about. And so it's called the Moth Podcast. All right. So what is this next thing that I wanted to show you? Okay. So what we'll do is I would like to kind of give you a taste of how it how it will look, okay? So I have 3 speeches that I would like to show you, but of course we won't get the time to see all the 3 speeches, but I'll start off with one speech that I'm going to show you. And I've chosen speeches which were around 6 minutes at the most, okay? Because I wanted you to kind of understand, have a sense of that time, because all you guys will get is 5 minutes. So how do you tell a story in 5 minutes? So the ones that I've chosen are like then the 5 to 6 minute time frame, okay? So I want to show you one speech, and then we're going to have a discussion. How storytelling happened. I would also like to know, again, it's not, your answer is not going to be set in stone, but I would also like to know from all of you is which speech prompt are you leaning towards, okay? Again, I'm not going to hold you hold you responsible or hold you on it, because if you change it, that's fine, absolutely. But today, what are you feeling like? Which one would you do? Are you going to do disguise? Are you going to do resilience for your story, or are you going to do silence? Okay, so I'm going to ask that question to you a little later. Let's hear the first speech right now. So that's what I have for you. And if I was signed in, I would have easily anyways. I will just go here and mock speech. Mock speech, which is Martha Clooney, mock speaker. Yeah, that's the first one. Martha Clooney. Martha Clooney. Yes. And the best way to show my class here. Okay, let's see the best way to show them. They are also linked to, I can't even share this with them because they're linked to my YouTube, which is going on. I'll try to hold it for you guys. Okay. So this is the one that I'm going to show you. And for you guys who are online, I'm going to hold the screen in a way so that you can, I'll try my best to show you. Okay. Here we go. No thanks. Here.
In some legends, the hero likes to kind of sit back and not take credit, remain in the shadows. In college, that was me. I grew up in Northeast Philly, which has very specific working class kind of culture. I got a scholarship to go to the University of Pennsylvania, which has very Ivy League culture, which is very different. We literally did not understand each other. The Penn kids were using words that I didn't understand, like consulting. I was using words that they didn't understand, like water. The uniform was different. Where I grew up, it's very simple. We dress according to season. In the fall, it's the Eagle shirt. In the spring, it's a Philly shirt. And you save your best jersey for church on Sunday. Add gray sweatpants, fake gold nameplate necklace, you're good. But at Penn, it was different. First of all, nobody's jewelry was fake. Everybody was wearing these shirts that said Patagonia. I didn't understand. I was like, is that a country? Is everyone going there on vacation? Is it like a souvenir shirt? There were so many pants with small animals printed on them. And guys would carry these long wooden handled umbrellas, walking across campus, swinging them jauntily like Mr. Peanut. I was like, who carries an umbrella? Just put your hoodie up. The menu was different. I kept being confronted with these foods that I didn't know how to eat, like edamame beans. I've eaten the shells, like, oh, fiber, Someone's like, there's a bowl, they go in the bowl. No, for the first time in my life, I was told that pasta is not healthy. And in the dining hall, there were girls who were not going up for seconds. I was like, no, it's all you can eat. I lived in a high-rise apartment building dorm, and there were a lot of conveniences and things that I hadn't grown up with, like a microwave. It wasn't like I'd never seen a microwave, but I didn't have a lot of experience with using one because we had never had one. So I was really excited to experiment with microwavable foods. One night, late, probably one of the last nights before finals, middle of winter, I pull out a bag of frozen super pretzel, soft pretzels, really excited to make a microwaved pretzel for the first time in my life. So I glanced down at the bag, 3 minutes, put the pretzel in, just enough time to listen all the way through to Mariah Carey's All I Want for Christmas Is You. Big hit at the time. So just as Mariah is getting to the last you, I noticed a burning smell. And the microwave beeps, I open it up, smoke pours out, the apartment is filled with smoke, it's black, it's hazy, I can't breathe, I can barely see, but just through the haze, in the microwave is a charred, blackened lump of pretzel that should have been in for 3 minutes, for 30 seconds, not 3 minutes. And this is a piece of cultural information that I would have had if I'd grown up with a microwave, but instead, that part of my brain was probably taken up with the 67 SEPTA bus schedule. Smoke is filling up the apartment, so I go over to the window, but we live on the 7th floor. And I have this fear of being near open windows in high places in case I lose my senses and decide to jump out. So I can't open the window. I go back to the microwave, but there's smoke everywhere. Over to the window, I have to open it, I can't, I have to open it, I can't. There's a knock at the door. My neighbor John needs to borrow milk for his cereal. So I open the door and there he is, like a polo shirt clad Oliver Twist with his dry bowl of cereal. And he says, "What is going on?" Smoke billowing around me, rushes out into the hallway. The fire alarm is in the hallway. The fire alarm goes off. We live in a 24-story building. It is 1:30 a.m. It is the last night of finals. Everyone is either asleep because the exam that they're taking tomorrow determines whether or not they get into med school, or if you're me, cramming 3 months worth of unattended classes fueled only by Mountain Dew Code Red. But RAs are knocking on doors, people are being evacuated, everyone's being sent out, and the elevators are not working because the alarm went off. And I'm a little worried because if there's one thing I've learned about Penn kids by now, they do not love to be inconvenienced. So I run down 7 flights to the lobby. I get to the front desk, I'm like, "It was me, I set off the alarm, turn it off, it's fine. But they just point and the firemen are coming in the front door. And I look the other way and swarms of students are coming out from the stairwells, going outside to form a mob of 100 angry students in pajamas and underwear in the alarm. So I try and blend in for just about 5 seconds, but my eyes were darting and my body's quivering. I know they're going to find me. I don't know if there's a witness protection program in the Ivy League. So I go the only place there is to go. And that means that John, with his dry bowl of cereal, has to lead the firemen to the microwave pretzel because I am hiding in the stairwell, burying my face in my gray sweatpants because I'm afraid of being up in high places and I don't know how to use a microwave. And Patagonia is. The microwave pretzel incident of 2002 became a bit of a legend in our class, so much so that it still would come up in conversation years later, even though most people didn't know that I was to blame. But now, if I run into an old classmate and we're reminiscing and that story comes up, I will say, "Yo, that was me." Because you know what? If being different made me a legend, hey, I'll take it. Thank you.
Yeah. Back. Okay, right, here we go. Okay, so we're going to talk about this. We're not going to let this go. But what I want you to take about 5 minutes and tell me which theme are you going to choose? Are you going to choose disguise? Are you going to choose silence? Are you going to choose resilience? Which theme will make a good story for you? And tell me why. You don't have to give me too much of information if you don't want to. Obviously, I'm not even expecting you, but tell me why did you choose this particular theme? Take about 5 minutes, think about it. Again, it's not set in stone. You will, of course, if you want to change it, you can change it later on. There's no marker. There's 4x4 marker. Yeah. Oh, that's it. Okay, now just turn this off. Okay, off display mode. Okay. All right, it's going to write. So if you can choose one of the things, which is 3 speech prompts that we said. One is disguise. 2, silence, and 3, hard work or resilience. Which one will you choose? Take 5 minutes. And those of you who are online, you guys also have to think about it. Which one will you choose? Disguise, silence, or resilience as your story prompt? And tell me why. All right, should we get started? Did you have time to think about it? Okay, let's go with Jules. Where you? All right, Jules. Yeah. Silence. Is there any reason? Any little?
I'm not 100% sure,
Okay.
but I have anxiety, and I feel like that.
Okay, which you might think, okay, all right. Okay, but that's something that kind of resonates with you. So you want to talk about that. All right. Okay. Actually, let me just go according to Abigail at the end here.
Either resilience or disguise.
Okay.
Or which one is that?
Okay. All right. Do you have some story
Yeah.
with both? Okay. All right. Great. Okay. Tell me your name again.
Gerardo.
Sorry?
Gerardo.
Yes, Gerardo.
I'm going to study.
Disguise.
Yeah, so
Ah.
that's all right, it resonates with
It
me.
resonates with you. Okay. All right. Okay. Let's yeah. I'm trying to learn. Can tell me your name again.
Valeria.
Valeria. Yes, Valeria.
I'm between silence and disguise.
Silence or disguise? Silence or resilience? Okay, so it's going to be, which one are you leaning more towards? Resilience. Okay. It's something that happened where you really pushed.
Yeah, I
Yes.
think I could just like talk about like my journey, like moving to the United States.
Yeah, absolute resilience. Yeah. Tell me your your name. I'm sorry.
Vanessa,
Yes, Vanessa. Yes, Vanessa. Tell me.
I'm thinking it is silence or disguise. I'm not really sure.
Okay, which one are you leaning a little bit more towards
I think silence, but like I don't really have it.
right now? Okay, all right. Okay, all right. Sydney, let's go.
I'd probably say either disguise or resilience.
Okay.
I don't really have like a story in mind yet.
Okay, that kind of resonates with you. All right. Okay. Idahi,
Yeah, I mean,
disguise or resilience? Okay. All right. Jose or
Diego.
Diego. Yes, Diego.
Maybe disguise.
Maybe disguised. Okay. All right.
I'm probably gonna do resilience. I just have a lot of ideas
About okay. All right. Yeah. Dennis, yes, thank you. Okay.
I just can't resonate with the other two.
Okay. So resilience. All right. Okay. All right. Yeah, we'll go with yes. Name. Give me a name. I'm sorry.
Robbie.
Rebel. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I would either go with silence or disguise.
Silence or disguise. All right.
Mm.
Jose, right? Yeah.
Choose disguise or resilience.
Disguise or resilience. All right.
I was thinking resilience just because I don't really have a story that would resonate with the other two things. And I think I have an entertaining story I could probably tell with this.
Tell you. Okay, wonderful. All right. And then last, right behind you. Tell me your name then.
Sam.
Sam.
Silence.
Silence. Okay. You have a story
Yeah.
for us? Okay. All right. Okay. All right. So let me see from our online audience here, which is, let's see who. Okay. So we have Amber, Jack, Zinnia, Josh, and Vinny. Let's go with Amber. Amber, which one? Amber, what do you have in mind?
I'm thinking I'll go with resilience.
Resilience. Okay. Jack.
I also said I was gonna go with resilience.
Resilience. All right. Josh.
I chose silence.
Okay. Zinnia.
I'm stuck between silence or resilience.
Silence or resilience. All right. And Vinny have reached. Okay, thank you. So we're all on board. Kind of now, I've kind of made you start thinking about it. Okay. So which is good. You guys need to start thinking about it as soon as possible because there is nothing like I really got to be in that mood. Today is the day I'm going to write. It has to be just a project. And just where you do your assignment, you can't make it a very big thing that today is my writing day. The ideas are going to come and the creativity. But that doesn't need to think about it as a process, but to get it done, right? So just like I kind of now you know which topic you want to talk about. All right. So let's okay, now what I want to do is now discuss the speech. Okay. And discuss kind of it'll also help you understand how to write a story. Again, there's so many things that you can do. And but I just found this helpful because I feel that most by listening to some really good speeches on this channel, I felt that there are some trends, successful trends that most of these good speakers follow, and through that, they success leaves clues or patterns, and I've kind of identified a pattern of thinking when you're doing storytelling. So based on a few, and this is only the first one that you guys have heard, but based on a few, I've seen that there's a common pattern here. Okay, now we will talk about it. Let me get the thing here. So the first thing that we want to think about is, as George Bernard Shaw, who's a very famous writer, a playwright, he mentioned that there is no drama without conflict. Most storytelling is some kind of a drama, right? So no conflict, no drama. So you remember this always. So no conflict, no drama. And so most of the speeches that I will be showing you on the Smart channel, and all through other, some good speeches that I probably be able to kind of curate for you. And you'll see that most of these speeches will have a central conflict. There has to be a conflict, okay? This particular speech that you heard, what was the conflict? And if you think about conflict, another word that you can think about is problem. What was the problem? What was the problem in this speech? Yes, microwave, all right. That was absolutely the microwave story. I'm going to call it the microwave. The microwave story, it was the problem, all right. So you kind of pinned it right here, the microwave story, all right.
She was like out of place.
She was out of place. The microwave story highlighting actually the problem. This was an incident, a central incident, but talking about the fact that she was trying to, okay, I'm going there, the screen. She was trying to find her place. She was trying to find her place. She was struggling to fit in, all right? She was struggling to fit in. Find her place, you can call it finding her place. She was struggling to fit in. That was the central conflict. And the microwave story was the incident that actually got the whole message here. So struggling to find her place, struggling to find her identity. Okay, now I have, because I did not know that I'm going to use my phone. Does anybody have a iPhone cell phone charger here in class? No, no one? Okay, so I'm probably going to lose my students there. Let me call up and call up help desk and find out. I still have about 10 minutes. So guys, because I had not planned this, that I thought we were going to meet all of you online here in class. So I might lose charge, okay? I have about 10 minutes, so I might lose charge, but I will, I don't think you're going to miss a whole lot. It's already 10:10, so probably have charge till another 30 minutes. So we should be good. But then if our class ends at 10:55, so we end at around 10:30 because there's no charge. So I'll kind of fill in what you need to do. All right. Okay. All right. No charger here. Okay. Okay. So this is, this is the conflict. This is finding her place, struggling to fit in. struggling to fit in. Okay. So you, in your story, you know the theme that you're talking about. Either it could be resilience, it could be how, it could be silence, or it could be disguise. You know what theme you're going to be talking about. Now you've got to think about what is that one thing that one incident that you're going to talk about. You can think about it in this way, that, okay, this is what the incident is going to be. Now, when you look into the incident, it always have that underlying message. This was the microwave story, but the underlying message was she was struggling throughout this whole 5-minute speech. She was struggling to fit in this really classy UPenn, school. She was from a suburb in Philly, and she said that throughout her speech, you'll see cultural differences. I only know water, and they were talking about consulting. All right, everything, Patagonia, she talks about that. Always talking about the cultural difference that she versus the other UPenn students had, and she was desperately trying to fit in. The microwave story kind of actually she talks about that story. And then that basically brings out the underlying theme. You guys have to think about the story that you will be talking about. It could be one incident. It could be maybe 2 or 3 incidents that you can talk about. I would probably, for a 5-minute speech, if you're talking about one story, one incident, I would probably do that rather than talk about 4 or 5 stories in a 5-minute speech. It'll lose focus. So I would probably maybe 1 or 2 stories that you would like to talk about. And then you have to figure out every story that you will be talking about will actually be, there's a reason why you chose. It'll always be about it'll be about disguise, or it'll be about silence, it'll be about resilience, and there'll be an underlying theme there. Okay, so you figured that out. So first figure out the story, and then you'll know that, okay, this is why I'm talking about. My underlying theme is this. So every speech, every story will have a conflict or a drama. That's number 1. Okay, now moving on to the next part. Okay, I'm going to erase this. So if you want taking notes, take it or take a picture of this. I'm going to erase the board right now. Okay. The next thing is, how does this conflict happen? Now the way it is framed is you have what we call is rising action. Okay, then it goes here. Then we have the conflict, or the peak, the climax. I'm going to call it the climax. And then we have it goes like this. Then we have a resolution. Okay. In terms of this speech class, can you identify what was the rising action, what was the climax, and what was the resolution? You heard the speech. Now you'll be able to map it and know. Kind of take it. Just try if you can. Which one? What do you think was the rising action? Yeah, Sydney.
I think moving into like the culture shock, or the initial.
Right, moving into the thing, and then talking about the cafeteria, how they behaved, and the seconds and all of that. That was the rising action. To the part that she talked about the pretzel, and then she takes it to climax. What was the climax? When the story reached its peak?
When the fire alarm.
Yes, when the fire alarm started, because absolutely that's the right climax. And then she, instead of 30 seconds, she put the pretzel in the microwave for 3 minutes. It was charred. And that was the climax. And what was resolution? When is the problem getting solved? What was the resolution? Yes.
I'd say like once everyone evacuated the building and the neighbor talked to led them to the thing.
Right.
And I guess the overall message would just be she kind of said she owns up to it now.
Yes.
She kind of owns that she's different.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, instead of feeling embarrassed when she says, because the natural would be, okay, something like this, the natural progression would be, then I would feel really embarrassed. I won't be talking, but she kind of reverses that. That's the charm. That's what we as audience, we like to hear stories where there's an underdog, can't perform, is a country bumpkin, is able to, own themselves. These are the stories we love to listen, right? Because most of us want to identify with this person, or we know people who are like him or that, and that makes, It's so good, the story. So there was a complete, she said that, if I was in this stage of my life, I would be like, buried. Almost, she didn't say all of that, but she'd be, buried with shame. But she said that, now if you talk about it, hey, say, hey, that was me. If there was a so think about the term legend. She makes fun of that word legend. She talks about, if I was a legend, I'm going to tell you how I became so it almost reverses the meaning of legend, right? The legend is somebody who's done like great things, and almost like a hero or a shero, and she says that and your expectation as an audience, so she's going to probably talk about a story of winning tail and all. And also she kind of reverses and says, the microwave story, and it was embarrassing, and this and that, and then she reverses the meaning of legend. And so she said, yes, I'm a legend. She owns it. So she accepts herself. All right. So these are good storytelling strategies. So she kind of plays on that word legend, and she redefines what legend is, kind of also making it funny, yet very meaningful. All right. So there's rising action, there's climax, there's resolution within a story. Now, how do you do these things? All right. So I'm going to, if you want to take a picture, you can. Otherwise, I'm just going to erase the board, right? Okay. No conflict, no dramas. This one, this. Okay. Now, the few things that you can do is in your story, I'm going to ask you, in terms of characters. Do you have characters in this story? Of course, you are yourself. You're doing a profile speech. You are the narrator, and you will probably be doing it if you're not completely changing and which I'm fine. I'm very experimental. If you want to try a new way of presenting it as a third-person narrator, that's also fine. But usually, typically, if it's your first speech, it's an easier thing to do is address yourself as I. All right. So you are the narrator. Great. Do you have characters in your story? Is there a villain in your story? Is there a person, a cheerleader in your story? Is there a person who's kind of like a foil who exists in your story to kind of actually put your character in the spotlight? Okay, so who are the characters? Do you have funny characters? Principal, strict principal, or that mean teacher in your story, that mean coach, or the great coach? Who are the characters within your story? So you're going to choose resilience. I'm thinking that when you're talking about resilience, or let's say I'm just moving into a new country, who was that person who kind of helped you moving into the country? Who is that aunt or the uncle or that coach or the teacher? Who was that person? Okay, so think about characters. Who are the characters in your story? You are yourself a narrator. Then do you have one of the stock characters? Who are the characters in Martha Clooney's speech? Who do you remember? Who were the characters there? John, right. A typical stock character, right? With his polo shirt, with a bowl, asking for some milk. Okay, so this is a stock character who just makes you may be knowing John in your life, who's the, usually always wears a polo shirt, is very prim and proper, wants everything to be in a certain order. So then, there are then stock characters. And you usually have that, or that really annoying principal, or that annoying teacher. So there's a reason why you have those stock characters, because of identification. Most people can identify with stock characters, and the audience will be able to identify and either make it more meaningful or just can get a laugh out of the audience. Okay. So do you have stock characters? Do you have supporting characters, people who are supporting you through your story? A mother, a parent, a teacher, a principal, a coach. Who would you think are the stock, supporting characters within your story? Sorry. Okay, or maybe like I had a student, just to give you an example, I had a student who talked about disguise, and student was yes, she was from COD, and she told me about she had an identical twin sister, and she said that throughout her life, as good as her sister academically. Her sister was much stronger than her in terms of sports, in terms of academic accomplishment, in terms of popularity, had much more friends, people knew her. So she was always in that shadow of not being the better one. Her teachers would make the comparison. Oh, you're so-and-so sister. You're so different than her. Look at her. She's doing so throughout her life, she was talking about this constant comparison, to the point that at a point in her time, she actually was able to accept who she is with a lot of pride. And so that was her 5-minute story when she talks about, her whole thing about disguise and how she always pretended to be like her sister. And so that kind of a situation where she's talking about as identical twin is actually, you call this character a foil, F-O-I-L. This character only exists to kind of create a shape, an identity for the main narrator. Okay, so that if you have something like that, you can. Again, you can't have all of this. You can just have maybe 1 or 2 of them, but you got to have those things. Another thing. So now in a story, you may want to. I'm going to erase this, guys. You've taken. Okay. All right. Now the next thing is dialogue. In your story, do you have dialogues with yourself? Have some dialogues. This is this is a speech. You're actually delivering the speech for an audience who's not reading your speech. You're delivering it to an audience who's going to listen to your speech. So do you have dialogues? Funny dialogue, serious dialogue within the speech. Make it, as lively as possible. If you have dialogues, it could be an inner dialogue when you're actually thinking. If it's an inner dialogue, write it out, okay? When you're talking to yourself, it's dialogue with other characters. Have those dialogues, input those dialogues. So that also makes it good storytelling. All right, dialogue. This is the beginning, we can talk about it a lot. Then another thing that we can talk about is, this is something big, and I've noted this quite often, is metaphors. We can have a whole semester just, what the power of metaphor. Metaphors are words that have hidden meaning, okay? So, for example, she talks about Patagonia, and you see she uses it quite intermittently. She uses it in the beginning, then again in the somewhere in the body of his speech. What do you think she means when she talks about Patagonia? What do you think she meant? Do you remember that? I'm not sure whether you remember. You remember that she's talking her. What do you think? Yeah. Whoever wants to.
I think it just symbolizes how, like you said, she felt out of place and how she was still adjusting and adapting to the environment.
Okay. All right. So that's a point. Sydney, do you want to?
Oh, I was like very specific.
Okay. All right. So yeah. So the Patagonia.
I think the phone just died.
Yeah, no, I did.